Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. I hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to Money in the Morning. This is where we learn the art of economic elevation. This is where we make ourselves into what our community is going to become, which is the greatest investors on the planet, the greatest wealth builders on earth, the masters of economic intelligence, and our financial fate. I hope everybody's doing well. It is Monday morning, and and let me tell you, today's a pretty significant day, and you could probably guess why. If you're an investor, today is a big day because Donald Trump he's Donald Trumping, and let me tell you, there's a lot to talk about with what's going on right now with the stock market. I'm going to give you the scoop, break it all down for you, and help you understand what's happening and everything else. Um, all right, so one thing is I'm sending out a text message to let you guys know class is starting. So if you're not on the text list, make sure you get on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Also, last night, a lot of you were there last night when we did our stock options breakdown. I gave some stock options plays and insights in terms of ways you might want to adjust and make money in this environment. Remember, every environment is a moneymaker. It's just some environments are a little bit different from others. So there's a lot of different ways to build your wealth in an economy like this one. Even when you see the market plummeting, do not fall for the hype. Do not believe what so many other people believe that everything's just doom and gloom and bad for everyone all the time completely. That is not the reality of what the market is doing. What's happening right now is you're just seeing what they might call a market correction or just a major adjustment. What's happening right now is pretty significant because, to my knowledge, this has never happened in the history of this country. This has never happened where you had one president that was so determined to reset the global economic order, to basically reshape who our friends are, who our enemies who our trading competition is going to be. And there were so many little things about it. I mean, I was up all night just thinking about it, processing things, taking in information, hearing different assessments from different experts, and then leaning, of course, back into things I learned in my doctoral program and things that we taught when I was on the faculty of Syracuse in terms of what sort of happens to markets when you deal with things like this. And so here are a couple of insights. I'm literally going to do a brain dump, and y'all know it's very dangerous when a man with ADHD does a brain dump because it's just going to be overwhelming. You know, my wife calls me the juggernaut because I just go in there and I just go hard and it all comes out and it's just like so much. So just be ready. But I'm gonna break it all down so that even your 8-year old can understand what's happening here because I think it's important that your 8-year old understands economics. So give me a yes if you got kids in the house that you're teaching about finances. Give me a yes if you have a family that is looking to break economic generational curses. Give me a yes if you're getting it done, if you're doing the damn thing, if you are taking your family to the next level. I want all the yesers in the building. I want everybody really on that train in terms of really doing what you got to do because you can do this. You have everything that it takes. And I will help you in every way that I possibly can because we are built to win, period, 100%, without question. So, with that said, let's hop into this. Let's talk about what's going on with the Trump stuff. First thing I want to talk about is the relationship between Trump and China. Trump has a big bone to pick with China. The biggest tariffs, or not the biggest, Vietnam actually had the biggest tariffs. China was up there too. China is probably one of the largest, not just trading partners, but one of the largest adversaries of the United States when it comes to what's really happening right now. What's really happening is you're witnessing an economic escalation of epic proportions. You're watching, I'm I'm a brother. We would in my where I came from, we would call this some good old fashioned gangster shit. That's what this is. Excuse my French. I'm not gonna cuss no more, but that's what it is. It's some gangster stuff. And the reason I say this is because remember Goldie the Pimp when he said we could settle this like some gentlemen, or we can get into some old gangster shit. Okay, stop it, boy. Stop it. All right. So here's the thing. The reason I call it gangster-ish is because basically Trump and China are it's an unstoppable force against an immovable object. Basically, Trump is trying to again, there's Trump kind of it's like really Trump against everybody for the most part, but it's a lot of it is Trump against China. And the thing about China is that China does not bend easily. China's not, they're not punks. They don't have punks that run that country. The Chinese are very difficult economic adversaries in large part because they have a couple of things that really work that would actually work quite well in the black community as well if we adopt these ideas. Um, they have unity in their perspective. There's no sort of confusion about what they're going to do. The leaders say this is what we're going to do, this is what it is, and the people tend to get in line with that. When I taught in China, I taught finance in China. I was really just astonished by the uniformity of the thinking in China. In China, even the culture is very different. You're not rewarded for being a Kanye West where you're just kind of doing things that are different or trying to stand out. They make fun of you if you do that. They have a saying in China that the fattest pig always gets slaughtered, and nobody wants to be the fat pig or the loud one or anything like that. So they tend to have just this unity of perspective. They're putting out messages in China basically saying buckle down, buckle up, get ready, it's about to get hard. We got to be in this together. The second thing that China has that is that you should pay attention to in terms of economic thinking that's going to be hard for Trump to deal with is the Chinese can think long term. They're looking long term. They're not just thinking about this year or next quarter or the midterm elections like Trump will have to. Trump's going to have to deal with the midterm elections. A lot of people are mad at him. They're not gonna real if the elections were today, this man would not win anybody's election because what he's done has been um pretty heavy on the markets. I'm not going to say damaging because I don't want to define it just yet. I think that it's a nuanced conversation, but it's heavy. It's real heavy. So because Americans tend to think in terms of like these really short cycles, that puts us at a strategic disadvantage to the Chinese who tend to think very long term. Xi is not running for election anytime soon. So Xi, the president of China, is like, okay, all right, well, you want to put tariffs on us? We'll put tariffs on you. And what makes this Goldie the Pimp gangsta-ish is that Trump has already said, if you retaliate, we're going to retaliate to your retaliation. So what the Chinese are saying, well, if you retaliate to our retaliation, we're going to retaliate to your retaliation of our retaliation. And you see where that's going? You got two escalators. You pull out a knife, I'll pull out a gun. You pull out a gun, I'll pull out a missile. You pull out a missile, I'm gonna launch a nuke at you, right? And so basically, the thing that if you want to worry about a trade war, or the impact of a trade, which would be just devastating to the global economy for sure, and some would argue damaging to the U.S.'s economic relationships around the world. You need look no further than the U.S. and China. And China is really serious about this, and I think that this is also, while it's an opportunity for the United States to reset global economic relationships, the Chinese also, I would imagine, see this as an opportunity as well. China gets to go around the world making friends with all the people around the world who are mad at the United States right now. All of the countries that used to depend on the U.S. are now leaning toward China in various ways. And the other opportunity is that if they're able to stand their ground against the United States, they can actually stimulate their domestic economy in a lot of different ways. I think that they have more levers they can pull. For example, Trump has to wait for Jay Powell, oh gosh, the I want to say Fed secretary. He's not the Fed secretary, the head of the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell. You know what I'm talking about. The guy that sets the interest rates, right? So Jay Powell, they have to wait for him to decide that he's going to respond by lowering interest rates. Trump wants him to do that. He can't make him do that. Jay Powell says we're not going to move most likely until we see signs of a recession. Here's the problem. There have not been signs of a recession. So here's the deal. So what Lawrence Summers, who used to be the president of Harvard, chairman of the Fed, see that's Derek. See, I ain't had all my coffee yet, so I need to find my words. But Lawrence Summers, who's a brilliant economist, who what used to be president of Harvard, he actually compared what's happening right now in the markets to three major events. He mentioned the '87 crash, which was big, the crash in 2020, which was the pandemic, and 2008, which was I guess the Great Recession and everything. And basically, one of the varying factors that he mentions is that in all three of those incidents, the Federal Reserve instantly jumped in and came to help save the economy. They call that the Fed put. The Fed put is basically a put is a protective instrument, right? So the Fed put basically says that when the economy goes south, we're going to come in and make it right. We're going to fix it. That ain't happening now. Like there's nobody. There were two puts that people were leaning on, two types of insurance, if you will, in this market. One was the Fed put. They're like, oh yeah, if everything drops too much, the Fed's going to hop in. It's going to be all good. So the market was sort of expecting that. And then there was the Trump put. And even I thought that the Trump put was a real. I thought that Trump was a guy that didn't want to let the stock market drop too far. I'm starting to rethink that position, and the reason is that it seems to me that there is an ideological foundation to Trump's decision to really stick with these tariffs. Like there's almost like a stick with itness that they're committed to, where they're saying, because right now they claim they claim, but you know how the Trump administration is. They be lying, and then but they claim that 50 countries have reached out to begin negotiations about shifting the tariffs because they're all alarmed that the United States has become such a bad trading partner overnight. And they haven't adjusted. They said, we'll call you back. Well, we're going to think about it and we might call you. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. And so, what people thought was just a negotiating tactic at first, some are starting to believe that this is actually him wanting to permanently reset the global economic order, which is risky because we don't really have a clear understanding of what happens when you do this. The closest example of what tariffs can do to an economy would be like the Hoot-Smalley Tariff Act right before the Great Depression, which everyone pretty much agrees that made the Great Depression worse. That like the Great Depression could have been the Great Recession, but the tariffs and poor Fed policy killed it all. So in grad school, all we did was we spend time studying how stupid their decisions were and how we don't make that mistake anymore. So there is some chance that you could be entering into just a new global sort of economic system, one that isn't as globalist as the one before, one that's a lot more fragmented. Now, here's the thing. On one hand, that's painful for the stock market, and I get it, and I know, and and we always talk about the put options and stuff like that in class, but even if you have the puts, it still hurts, and I get that. Um, but the other thing about that though is that there are many people who believe that when the United States became a globalist society or we became a global economy and we're trading around the world, that everybody didn't win equally. See, the big problem in America, and this is something that's going to be the downfall of our country, in my opinion, is that capitalism just sort of keeps score by adding up everybody's money and saying we're better off because because we've got these global trade agreements and NAFTA and we're moving products and people or resources all around the globe, but everybody doesn't benefit equally. You got a lot more billionaires, you've got a lot more trillion-dollar companies than you had before. You've got lots of people that particularly stock market investors who have benefited dramatically from globalization. You also have lower prices that with through globalization than you would have through a fragmented economic system where everybody's kind of doing their own thing. But give me a yes or no. Is America a country that has a lot of economic equality? Would you describe America as a country that fosters lots of economic equality or inequality? Would you say that we are that everything's fair and everything's square and everything's shared, or would you say that we tend to kind of screw over a big chunk of our society by locking them out of economic opportunity? We don't pay the workers what they should be paid. We'll ship a job to Mexico in a second, right? They'll hire people from other countries really fast. They'll bring them in the country to replace Americans, whether you're talking about illegal immigrants or legal immigrants, right? Um, we killed those factories. All those factories went to other countries. They didn't disappear. They just popped up in Mexico and other places. So ultimately, this is life, right? So what's happened in America is everybody don't love globalization the way rich people do. A lot of you in here are investors, so you benefit from globalization. Some of you are wealthy. You benefit from globalization. Some of you are business owners and property owners, and you benefit from globalization. But workers don't. Workers don't benefit from global. The poor don't benefit from globalization. And this is, I think, the one of the key issues here that cannot be forgotten. Think about this. Imagine if you're on a football team and the team wins championships, but you're a great player and you never get the ball, right? They never pass you the ball, so you're trying to get, let's say it's college and you're trying to get to the NFL. You want people to see how good you are, right? But the coach says, "Hey, we're winning championships. I'm not going to mess it up. You're going to sit on the bench." And that's where you're going to be. So you're conflicted. On one hand, you're like, yeah, it's great we're winning championships, and I want to be a team player. But on the other hand, you're like, well, little Pookie over there is getting the ball every time, and he's getting all the stats, and he's getting all the hype from the media, and he's getting all all the recruiters are looking at him. You should be looking at me too, right? What do you do? Which would you rather have? Would you rather have a team winning championships where you never ever get off the bench, or would you rather have a team that is pretty good, like let's say above average, but you get a chance to get some shine and maybe you get a scholarship or you get a chance to go pro because everyone gets to see you also. And that's what it is. We have a big economy where a lot of people are not seen. That is my point. We have an economy where there are so many people who just are invisible, where wealthy people have not been good stewards of this country. They have not made sure that workers have that workers have good wages. They have not they don't want to increase the minimum wage to save their life. They don't really care about all the homeless people in this country and the poor people. We could feed everybody if we wanted to. We just don't care. Capitalism teaches you not to give a damn, which is why I refuse to be a capitalist. So what I will say to you at the end of the day is this is nuanced. And if you think this is all bad, make sure you know why you feel like it's all bad, right? If you think it's all bad because it's Trump, well, I can't agree with you because that's it's more complicated than just, oh well, Trump said it, so it must be bad. You can't. I don't agree with thinking that way. Um, if you think it's all bad just because the stock market has collapsed pretty bad, that's not enough either. Because the market goes up and down. I told you 5 years from now, you won't remember much about that. You might remember, like, and be like, wait, remember way back in 2025 when this, you'll be like, yeah, I remember that. Trump did it. I get it. But for the most part, long-term investors are going to be fine based on history. If you're a long term, if you have a 5 year horizon or longer, then you're pretty much okay. So even when people say if you're retired, then you don't have enough time and retirees have to reduce their risk because they don't have enough time. I'm like, well, if I'm 65 and I think I'm going to live to be 69, then I'm okay. If I think I'm going to die before 69, then yes, I got to hurry up and do some stuff. But then my bigger problem is that I'll be dead, right? But if I'm 65, I expect to live to 69 or 70, then all the rules still apply. I can still wait a 3 to 5 year time horizon. And it usually doesn't even take that long. Most bear markets, the average bear market, I think we officially went into bear market territory, but I got to look at the news because my stocks, I don't know, did anybody else notice that in the last few minutes, the stock market did an absolute freaking reversal? Did anybody see that? The market started off really deep negative, and then suddenly it just shot up. So I'm looking, usually when the stock market does that, it's because there's information, there's news released, and that's great. So congratulations. So I could literally say that in this room, like probably $50,000 just got made. Like y'all are richer now than you were when I first started talking. So let me look into this. Let me see what happened. The biggest thing that moves the stock market is information. That information is everything. So there must be some type of information. It's information and expectations. But information drives expectations. So what happens is new information comes in, you shift your expectations based on new information, and then you change the stock price. It's kind of like dating. It's dating, right? That's why I tell people when you date somebody and you're going to invest in that person like an asset, they could be an asset or a liability in your life. Get information. Take your time. Don't sleep with them on the third date or the second date, even the fifth date. Go on maybe 20 dates. Get to know the person as a friend first. I got to know my wife as a friend for a very long time before I decided that I wanted to go sleep with her. And it makes a big difference because you have lots of information. And as you take in the information, you can shift your expectations and then you know the true value of that stock. See, some of y'all invest in the stock and you only looked at it for 20 minutes. And that ain't how you invest. You gotta take in, you gotta do, they call that due diligence. See, people out here struggling because they didn't do no due diligence. All you saw was what he looked like in a pair of gaiters, or you smelled the cologne, or you saw how pretty she was. You saw that BBL and you decided you wanted to risk it all for a BBL. You better stop. All right. So anyway, the due diligence that works for all forms of investing. So it says here, U.S. stocks mounted a dramatic rebound Monday following a two-day market rout that came after President Donald Trump's rollout of shockingly high tariff rates on most key U.S. trading partners. The S&P 500 gained 2.9% after losing as much as 4.7% at the lows and dipping into bear market territory. So let's see, the Dow added 705 points after losing as much as 1,700. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is good old-fashioned volatility. Volatility is just chaos. That's what this is. Trump's initial unilateral 10% tariff went into effect Saturday. Investors were hoping for news over the weekend that the Trump administration was having successful negotiations with countries to lower the tariff rates, or at the very least was considering delaying the set of so-called reciprocal tariffs due to take effect April 9th. Instead, the president and his key advisors played down the sell-off. Trump said Sunday evening on the market sell-off, "I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something." He also said, "We have a $1 trillion trade deficit with China, hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China, and unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal." So it almost sounds like he's saying, unless you close the trade deficit gap, which is not going to happen in his term, nor is it going to happen in his lifetime, he doesn't want to make a deal. That's a heavy thing. And what's really crazy about this market, this is fascinating. I don't think I've ever seen this. The market literally went down 1,300 this morning. It shot up 500. It was in the green by 500 points, the Dow, and now it's down again. Literally in the time since it's not even since the time I started this video. Since the time I told you that everything went good, it's already gone bad again. This is crazy. This is absolute chaos. The biggest thing I'm gonna say to you is cover your butt. That's the biggest thing. Get made if especially if you get like a little bit of green. If you ain't got those put options, get you some put options in place. I'm not a big fan of selling. I'm not telling you what to do. I don't give investing advice ever. You guys know this. But um, but selling in this market is not a good idea. I ain't selling nothing. There ain't nothing I'm selling. I'm just not. I'm not selling. And so holding on to the Bronco, um, and buying. If you're a long-term investor, this is a great economy, a great market to buy in. What you can really hope for, though, is that at some point some cooler heads will prevail and this trade war will come to an end, and that we'll get back to something similar to business as usual. I'm gonna tell you like this: if the Trump administration continues like this, he's not going to finish his term. He's not going to finish his term, because this volatility is a standard. This is what happens in the market, but this is a little bit too much. Now, a lot of you, how many of you, if you're on the text list for this class, you got a list of bond funds that I sent out, that you can take a look at. A lot of people invest in bonds when they want to get away from the chaos and they want to actually have something a little more stable. So if you didn't get the list, I'll give you this list right now again. And these are just some bond funds you may want to take a look at and consider investing in. It's a little more stable. Bonds are considered a safe haven asset. I think everyone should have some bonds in their portfolio long term. So here's that list of bond funds. I put that in the chat. And those of you that are not on the text list, you can actually get on the text list by texting the word morning, MORNING, to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. So there is that list of bond funds. I hope you guys can see it. Let me know if you can see it. And I'm gonna strap it out in here so everybody can get it. And also, don't forget that the Economic Elevation Summit is March 9th and 10th. We're going to meet in Miami, and we're going to spend the weekend connecting and elevating our economics directly and in person. We'll do exercises, and also I hope you'll bring your family members. I hope you'll bring your children or your siblings. It's really great. If you don't have children or siblings to bring, then just come there and meet your new siblings when you get there. So find family. Did I say the date wrong, Jim? I'm sorry, May. I meant to say May 9th and 10th. If I said April 9th and 10th, then that's wrong. It's May 9th and 10th. My apologies. So sorry I said that wrong. I didn't even know I even said it like that. All right. So if you want to come to the summit, you can go to economicelevationsummit.com. That's the URL, economicelevationsummit.com. So if somebody could write that down for me in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Economicelevationsummit.com. Okay, so let me finish breaking down what's going on with the Trump stuff. There were so many notes I was taking. I was in the gym. I got up. Y'all be proud of me. I got up at 5 a.m. this morning. I went to the gym. I got on that treadmill because I've been getting fat. And I was lifting weights, but the whole time I was lifting, I was literally listening to this stuff and taking it in and trying to form a theory on what I think is going to happen and the best ways to respond. Um, it is now one of the experts did bring up this fact that it's harder to predict the future now than it's ever been, at least in recent history. That's going to be difficult long term. They one other big issue is that inflation, it's hard to imagine tariffs not becoming inflationary. One thing the Trump administration has been stating inaccurately is that tariffs won't cause inflation. They will cause inflation. And so what's going to be interesting is the back and forth between the Trump administration and the Federal Reserve in terms of how to deal with the what could become stagflation in the near future, where you have high inflation and a broken economy. What's also making it difficult for the Fed to respond to this is that economic indicators have not yet responded to all the chaos yet. If you look at the jobs numbers, they look good. So what the Trump administration comes out and says is they say, see, the great jobs numbers today shows that our strategies are already working. That's a lie. That's an inaccurate statement. The only people that would believe a statement like that are people that just have a relentless belief in anything that Trump says. That's not true. Those jobs numbers are not in any way a reflection of what's happening with the tariffs. Those jobs numbers are a reflection of things that happened before the tariffs. The tariffs will have a lagged effect on the economy. So if I want to look at the jobs numbers and understand how employment in America and the economy in America is responding to the tariffs, I'm not looking in April. I'm going to be looking in the summer. I'm going to be looking in the fall. And I can tell you that when they look at the data, they call this soft data. They measure soft data. They talk to CEOs and say, how are you feeling? They say, are you making investments? Are you hiring people, laying them off? How are you dealing with customers? All the CEOs, most of them, the majority of them are saying, we're confused. We're nervous. We don't know what to do. We're holding off on investing. We're holding off on hiring people. We may not be doing layoffs yet, but we're going to do a hiring freeze. All these indicators say that after you finish with having this bear market, which I think we're officially in bear market territory. Bear market territory means that you've dropped 20% off your recent high. I think that with the S&P is now in bear market territory because that dip kept dipping. Now all the good news I gave you 5 minutes ago is completely invalid. I've never seen the mark. I've just never seen that much of a switch that quickly. But anyway, with that being said, if you want to know what I did this morning, one thing that I did was I rolled down some of the call options I sold. I sold a bunch of thousands of dollars in call options on Meta because I was worried that this was going to happen and made a bunch of money from that. Then those options became worthless for the people who bought those options, right? I made money. It cushioned my losses. We all have losses, though. A lot of people do have losses today. But the losses were cushioned because I sold a lot of upside and the upside never arrived. So I was able to roll down those options and get more money from that. And basically, I'm just sort of preparing for the worst, right? So if you want sort of just a quick way to think about it, protecting the portfolio, I think is critical. And if you haven't done it yet, here's the thing, put options are going to be expensive right now because everybody's buying those freaking puts. Everybody's, you know, and so if you get an opportunity, like for example, when the market turned super green a second ago, that would have been a great time to hop in there and buy a bunch of puts really fast because the put price is all adjusted. But now it went back in the red. So here's what would have happened. If you bought those puts right then, you would have made thousands of dollars literally in 5 minutes because the market literally went from green to red that fast. So it's like almost like if it's raining outside and everybody wants an umbrella. So the price of umbrellas is really high. So you say, I don't want to buy an umbrella in the rain. I'll just get wet. I'll wait. And then suddenly the sun comes out and everyone thinks it's going to be sunny all day. And then the umbrellas go on sale, right? Then you run and buy a bunch of umbrellas. Then it starts raining again. That's pretty much what just happened. And then if you didn't buy an umbrella, you're like, dang, I should have bought my umbrella when I had the chance. So if you want to know what I'm going to be watching, I'm going to be watching this market move all day. I normally don't watch the market all day, but it's crazy. I've never seen it just move this much. The volatility is just ridiculous. So what I'm really sort of feeling is that if there are conversations, if there's an announcement, if there's an interview that sounds optimistic, that could easily shift that red back into green. And when it becomes green, I'm literally not going to assume it's going to stay green. I will not assume that good news is going to remain good. We're in a bad news economy. We're in an economy where it's more likely to get worse than it is to get better. We're slightly above 50% in terms of what leading experts are predicting, or in terms of whether or not we're going to have a recession. So just kind of prepare for a bad news economy. And remember this though, if you're a good investor though, you can make money with bad news. That's where the bears come from. That's where put buyers come from. Stuff like that. So if there's ever a day where the market just looks really good, my belief, my assumption is that, oh yeah, this too shall pass. This ain't gonna last forever. So because I honestly will say that I'm sort of like there's a guy named Bill Ackerman who was a big supporter of Donald Trump. He's a billionaire. And even he's stepping out and saying, this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. So even a lot of people that really had Trump's back, um, are starting to say, what are you doing, man? Like, you're trying to kill everything. Are you trying to like cause everybody to lose money? So this is not a good thing. Now if you have a few questions about sort of the what's going on with the markets in general, don't ask me about any individual stocks, because I don't have that capacity to look up stocks. But if you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A section. And if I don't see your question, make sure you come to the Zoom. The way to get invited to the private Zoom is text the word morning to the number 87948. So just text more, or you can go to drboyceelevate.com and you get an invitation. One other thing that let's see here. I really can't. I think that's pretty much everything actually in terms of what's been happening. By the way, I put some stuff on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So if you want to sort of see a lot of times I'll just have these thoughts about the economy or economics or black wealth in particular. I'm not Democrat or Republican. I'm just black. That's all I want to be. I ain't trying to be a Democrat or a Republican. And I put some stuff up there. So feel free to take a look at that, because there was some interesting stuff that happened, but I'm not going to talk about it today because I don't want to overwhelm the conversation by jumping around too much. All right, so let's see. Why no tariffs on Russia? Asked Grant. No tariffs are on Russia because we're really not trading with Russia. Russia's kind of a non-player in the global economy, and that reminds me of Europe in general. The difference between the Europeans and the Chinese is that the Chinese are decisive and they're clear about what they're doing. The Europeans are kind of confused. The Europeans, like Trump against Trump against the Chinese is like a bully. It's like Ike the bully fighting like a kung fu master who isn't just strong as you, but he's slick. He knows how to fight. Um, Trump against Europe is like a bully fighting a hippie who smokes dope all day and doesn't want to go to work. Europe's kind of a economic punk to some extent. At least that's the way they're seen throughout the world. But it's okay though. They have a great balance in terms of quality of life. I know people that live in Europe and their quality of life is better. Americans, I mentioned that to you. Americans, we're leaders in the world when it comes to making money, but we have the lowest quality of life. We're like this really successful, miserable person. Like America, we have the highest divorce rates. Our mental health is jacked up. People get Alzheimer's because they went in their 30s and 40s without any sleep. Just all kinds of stuff. That physical health bad. 42% of Americans are obese. That's not true in any other country, by the way. That's why they sell all the Ozempic here. Ozempic and BBLs, right? You just get those two things, you feel like you're good, right? So Americans remind me of Michael Jordan, a guy who won a lot of championships but does not seem to be very happy or healthy. And I think that's so Europe is the hippie where they have balance, right? They're really good at, they support families, the streets are safe, the kids get educated, they have a really balanced society. but sometimes they overregulate to accomplish that, which can really undermine their ability to be economically competitive. So a lot of American companies don't invest as heavily in Europe because they're like, you're all over the place. You're trying to stop progress. So the Europeans are not really in a position, in my opinion, to really fight back with Trump. The other thing too is they don't have the same level of unity. China's this big fat nation with one leader that makes one decision and that's it. Europe is a bunch of different countries that all kind of have their own process. So imagine if the United States, instead of speaking through one leader, imagine if every single state was its own country, right? Or if you had the South, North, South, East, and West, and these were four countries that all made the United States up, and you had to get all the leaders together to decide what their response is going to be. So Europe I'm curious to see how the Europeans respond. Is I don't think they're in a position to really fight back the way the Chinese can. Let's see. Shantae, when buying your first stock, do you recommend a particular platform to buy from? I think anything that will let you buy, even if it's Cash App, I think even Cash App can work. Robinhood, Acorn, Stash, E-Trade, they're all so good. And I would encourage you not to overthink it. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, blackwealthmasterplan.com, that's the $5 a day program, blackwealthmasterplan.com. And then also, if you want, I put together an 11-step process that you can use to pick stocks that you want to add to your portfolio. 11 questions you can ask yourself to determine if that investment's right for you. And that's at thedrboycemethod.com, thedrboycemethod.com. John Trey, what consumer goods are safe bet during these economic times? I gave you a list of safe haven stocks before I sent that out. I'll send it out again, but safe havens were companies like Procter and Gamble, Coca-Cola, Walmart, stuff like that. Those companies were, are the stocks that will still make money even in a bad economy. McDonald's, stuff like that. But even though I'm sure those companies are probably taking a hit also. Let's see, Shante, when buying stock for a child, do you put it in their name or an adult's? I don't really. I mean, I know that they have custodial accounts. You can put things in the name of the child. I don't believe in giving a child control of their money when they're young. I believe in maintaining control of that money until you have to give up control. Because I don't think that investing for the child should just be all about the child. I think investing for the child should be all about the family. Building wealth is like getting a car. If I get a car for my child, that don't mean I can't drive the car. Right? I can get the car and drive it until you get old enough to drive it yourself, and then I can give you the car. Do you see what I mean? So wealth is the same way. Or if I get a house, I can get the house and I can live in the house and enjoy the house, and then I can let you have it. So me supporting you does not mean I'm not supporting myself. Stop thinking that way. Stop thinking that investing in your children means sacrificing your own happiness. It doesn't. I mean, I know a lot of you are willing to do that, and I admire you for that. I think that's great. But I personally think you should be taken care of too. I think you have the right to live good also. And you can enjoy, you can have your cake and eat it too. You just have to be thoughtful. There is a sacrifice required, but investing is something I think is that's done best when you approach it with balance. I think when you are consistently torturing yourself and denying yourself even the basics of happiness, I think eventually that's going to catch up with you. It's almost like how you ever see somebody that's like so hyper religious that they become like a sexual deviant because sex is such a forbidden thing and it becomes like this thing that they become excited about because they deny honesty with themselves about their own humanity. Like they literally think they can be as pure as the Virgin Mary, and then next thing you know, that person is doing all kinds of crazy stuff when the lights are out. You know what I'm talking about. That everybody knows those freaky church girls, right? So the point to me would be, why not have balance? Why not form a healthy relationship with sex instead of forming one that is just extreme, right? I think when it's extreme, I think that's when you get problems. That's when you get stressed out. That's when you have, or the people that are extreme about dieting, people that that become bulimic, where you're 95 pounds and you think you're fat, right? I mean, come on, or you ate a piece of lettuce and you feel guilty about it. Ain't nothing healthy about that, right? So I think financially speaking, it's about a balanced, healthy diet, healthy meal, Avoid, avoid the toxic stuff, avoid things that are harmful. Like, so if a person says, look, I'm not going to eat like an extremist, but I'm going to minimize the amount of meat I intake. I'm going to minimize processed food. I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to eat fruits and vegetables. I'm going to avoid drugs and alcohol. I'm going to, little things like that will make a massive difference, and you can still have a good life and enjoy it. You can still eat a piece of chocolate cake and know that you're not going to be obese tomorrow because you've thought about the balance. So financially speaking, buy the stuff you want, be nice to yourself, enjoy your money, but also while you're enjoying your money, invest your money, form some sort of investing plan. Every time I go out to eat, I'm going to invest the same amount of money in my stock portfolio. Every time I buy a new iPhone, I'm going to buy me that much in Apple stock, maybe double that amount if I can afford it, right? Whatever it is. If I go make a payment on my car, I'm going to go buy me some stock in an automobile manufacturer or just something. Just whatever your game is that you play with yourself, play some sort of a game that's going to have you being consistent when it comes to your investing. That's all it really takes. Okay. All right. And then speaking of kids, you guys know we have financial flashcards and workbooks for kids. So if you go to financialworkbooks.com, that's where you can find our workbooks for kids. We have every single grade level covered. Financialworkbooks.com. All right. Let's see here. Any chance of a replay being available for last night for Prime members? Yes. Last night we did do the stock options Q&A for all the Prime members. I'll put that inside your material. We're going to meet again this week for a Prime session. You guys will get a text. If you're interested in stock options and learn that from the Black Business School, you could text the word options to the number 87948. So text options to 87948. I will send you a link when we meet again for class, and you can decide if you'd like to join us, and you can bring your whole family. Sharon, how do I buy European or Chinese stocks? I put together a list of European stocks and a list of Chinese stocks. I can send that out again. But yeah, there's a lot of European and Chinese stocks that are trading on the markets. Let's see, some of my favorite Chinese stocks might be Baidu. What's another one? Is it 10? Is Tencent on the? I can't remember if I own Tencent. I got to double check. BYD is a great company, but I think that company's just been doing so good. They've been killing Tesla in the EV market, so their stock might be overpriced by now because they just came in and Tesla thought they were a joke, and they've been eating Tesla's lunch ever since. I mean, they just have been dominating Tesla and EVs to the point where Tesla's about to give up. They're about to focus on robots and AI. That's the only thing that's making me hold on to my Tesla stock is I believe that they're going to make big announcements in robotics and AI that's going to really shoot the price up in driverless cars and all that. I think that's where they're leaning. I don't think they're really leaning on this EV play as much anymore. But I'll send out the list of European and Chinese stocks again. Make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948 and I'll send it out to you. All right, so let's see here. Are you still selling cover calls in these market conditions? Absolutely. Number one, I don't change my investing strategy that much based on short-term conditions. I shift a little, but I'm an investor, not a trader. I'm not trying to make a quick flip because the studies show that traders don't make money long term. They make money short term, sure. It's like gambling. If I do sports betting, sometimes I'm gonna make big money, sometimes I'm gonna lose big money. Investing is different. Investing is building a long-term capital base through a series of consistent actions over a number of years. I'm not going to change what I do just because of Trump. Now, what selling cover calls will do for you in this economy is it actually reduces your losses. I sold several $1,000s worth of cover calls on Meta stock last week with strike prices that were here. The stock dropped. It's been dropping like crazy. Um, so all those options, the money I made from those options protected me from some of the losses because somebody donated that much. Somebody just put those thousands of dollars in my bank account, and it's like, thank you. Um, and so then when the market drops, I just roll those options down. And now the challenge though is that if you're an owner of the underlying asset and you're selling those calls, your underlying asset is taking a paper loss. So what you're hoping is that if you're a long-term owner, that the paper losses will eventually recover. Remember, there's a difference between a paper loss where your asset value drops and versus a realized loss where you sell at a loss. Those are two different things. Just because you have a paper loss doesn't mean you actually have to lose money. A paper loss does not mean you lost money. It just means the value of the asset you own has dropped in price. So never forget that. A realized loss is when you just gave up and said, I'm out, I'm gone. Realized losses are a lot more damaging than paper losses. Paper losses means, okay, yeah, we had a rough spot, but we maintained the relationship with the asset, and now the asset's gone back up and everything's okay. So it's like me and my wife having a bad day in our marriage. There's a difference between us having a bad day and staying married versus us deciding to get a divorce, right? Those are two different outcomes. Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Let's see. 37 years old, little to no savings, a few properties, unemployed for a little over a year. Should I put my 3K in the market now? If so, where? I don't know if I would. I don't know if that's your last 3K and you don't have other sources of income. I personally would be very careful about this market. I don't, I think that you can make the argument if you're long term, if it's money that you're not going to need for a year, then the answer would probably be yes. But if you think you might need that money this year, never believe that the market can't go down further. Never believe that this is all that there is. It can always get worse. Um, But yeah, and that little to no savings, it sounds like you have 3K in savings. Let's try to build on that. If you've been unemployed for a while and you're 37, maybe picking up different skills. Really, if you want to figure out how to make money, learning how to sell something goes a long way. That's what I told this young guy. He was like, "How do I make money?" I said, "Learn how to sell something. Get a product. What's your product? That should be your mindset. There's products you can make. There's products where you can buy low, sell high. You can buy it here for this price and sell it for that price. There's a service you can offer. Sell it. The ability to sell something. I think our kids should really learn how to sell something early. If they learn how to sell, then they'll never be broke. Especially if they're halfway decent at it. You know, um, so our kids should learn how to sell, and I think they should also, in addition to learning how to sell, they should also be taught how to start businesses early and make investments early. That's more important than the crap that they're learning in school. The stuff they learn in school is just how to go work for white people. That's not what I'm teaching my kids. Right? They can if they want to, but I want them to have a Swiss Army knife of options. I don't want them to feel like that's their only choice. Have you ever heard of a platform called Stormy Stocks? No, I have not, Lysandra. I have not. Sounds interesting though. Stormy Stocks. Let's see. Can we claim losses on our taxes? Asked Tracy. Yes. If you sell and it's a realized loss, you can claim that loss in your taxes. There's a limit though. There's a limit. So talk to your tax person about that for sure. Dorothea, I didn't get an answer last week, so I'll ask again. Coca-Cola is planning a 10-to-1 stock split in May. I wanted to hear your thoughts. Um, Stock splits have no fundamental impact on the value of a company. Um, that's the first piece. Stock splits have no impact on the value of the company. There's nothing about a stock split that inherently means you're going to make money. The reason, on average, a stock might go up when a stock split is announced, not when it happens, but when it's announced, is because people believe the stock split means the management expects that the stock price is going to keep going up. They call that signaling theory. They're signaling that the price is going to go up. So they're sending out this message. We're going to split this stock because, woo, buddy, this price is going to keep on going up. Nobody splits their stock if they don't think it's going to go up. So that might cause the increase in price. If I'm looking at Coca-Cola as an investment, and I do own some Coca-Cola, I'm thinking about it as a company. What is Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola is a big, fat, gigantic cash cow behemoth company that doesn't grow very fast, but it knows how to make money. And they're not going to stop making money in a recession. They're not going to stop making money in a depression. They're not going to stop making money in a market boom. They're just going to keep on selling bottles of Coke all around the world. I like it for that reason, but I don't look at Coca-Cola as a stock that's going to make me rich. People lean toward Coca-Cola as a stock that will keep them rich, even though we all know how unhealthy Coca-Cola. I feel guilty when I drink a Coke though now. I didn't feel guilty when I was a kid. I wanted to drink them as much as possible, but as an adult, when you start learning about what's in all this crap that they got us eating and drinking, it's like, oh my God. Well, you see those videos where they'll have like I don't know, they'll take a can of Coke and they'll put it in like some bottle and they'll show like how the acid will burn through the metal and you're like, oh my God, I'm putting this in my body. So putting the ethical issues aside, Coca-Cola is a company that's in the cash cow stage of its evolutionary cycle. So it's not going to grow very much, but they're very good at making money and they pay consistent dividends. Um, all right. Let's see here. Someone is a troll, very distracting. Oh, uh-oh. Well, if you're a troll, you better. Who's the troll? There's a troll in here? All right, you said C assignment. Uh-oh. Okay. If you're a troll and you're in the private Zoom, you're gonna get booted out of here. Thank you for making me aware. I did not know. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But yeah, I will trolls get deleted. So if you see a troll, let me know. And we'll deal with that because that's not appropriate. So if you disagree, I think that's fine. But okay, so I see assignment. Okay, yeah, what makes someone a troll? I think that if you're being deliberately nasty and negative and disrespectful, then that's going to put you out. So in this space, can we get a yes if we can agree that here we will be disrespectful to each other, or we will be respectful, not disrespectful. Give me a yes if we can agree that that even if we disagree, all opinions are welcome. We're not going to be nasty and ignorant and ridiculous because this ain't no space for ignorance. So if you violate that, and I see that consistently, then I will bring in my team members and they will have you removed. So please don't do that. That ain't cool. That ain't acting black. We're gonna act black up in here. Black is respectful, black is kind, black is intelligent. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, someone says they saw me on TV. So you saw me on TV? How many has anybody let's do a quick poll. I want to ask, did anybody see any of the ads on TV? Okay. I'm seeing some Francis and Jontre, Dwayne. Oh, what? Nicole. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is so cool. Not yet. Okay, I see Ron G. Okay, all right. I saw the ads on Tubi. Okay. All right, great. Okay, good. So they're working. Awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, so it looks like C assignment says that they're a Trump supporter. And just so you know, that's not going to get you booted. I don't care who you voted for. So let's not do that, please. I think everybody has the right to vote for who they want. You don't have to agree with that. I'm just saying, like, I want to vote for you. I want you to have money in your pocket because having financial security is going to be good for you, whether a Democrat's in office or a Republican or something else. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm not really, I don't believe the political solutions are the ones that are going to get us where we want to get to. I haven't seen evidence that politicians are going to elevate the black community or do anything particular for the black community, right? So they can make things easier, I guess, if they tried. I just haven't seen that yet. So in fact, I had a whole long conversation with Dr. Kevin Cosby in Kentucky, and we were talking about reparations. And he said, I don't think reparations will be paid to our people in our lifetime. And I said, I agree with you. I just cannot imagine. I don't see how they could even get that thing through. And if they do, it's going to be so watered down that it's going to be worthless. And then if we don't have the right mindset and we haven't been and we haven't been learning the economic intelligence to protect that money that we receive, that money's going to go right back to the white community anyway. Everybody gonna run to the damn mall and drop their money off, in somebody else's hands, and it won't matter anyway, right? If you don't, here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this point, then we gotta go because we've been in here for a little bit. The number one rule of capital is that capital has to be preserved. That's the first rule of capital. Write this down. Tell this to your kids. The number one rule of capital is that it must be preserved. The number two rule of capital is that it must be efficiently used. This is Finance 101. Two rules, two major rules. Protect it and then use it efficiently. So I want to ask you a question. If I get a big check and first thing I do is go buy me a new car, is that me? Am I protecting my capital or efficiently using my capital? Yes or no? If I win the lottery and first thing I do is I run to the mall, run to the Gucci store so I can be draped out on Instagram, am I preserving capital or efficiently using capital? Yes or no? If I get an insurance check because my grandma just passed, and first thing I do is I go get me a big fat apartment so I can pay $3,000 a month in rent. Is that preserving my capital or efficiently using my capital? Yes or no? I want to establish that clearly because most of the most profound ideas come from simple things. They come from simple things. So when you talk to your child and talk to your family about the preservation of capital and the efficient use of capital, you have to start off by asking, like, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, first thing is, if I get money, my first job is to keep it. I got to protect it. Protection of money is a very complex idea. It might come through insurance, it might come through trusts, it might come through just It might come from carrying a gun, right? Right, putting your money in whatever it is, right? Right. There's various, or it might come from not answering the phone when your broke ass cousin calls you and wants to borrow money. It might come from not letting people scam you. It might come from not letting people talk you into bad business deals because they know that you just got a check. Okay, so protection of capital is critical. I there was a young lady I mentored, and I was so proud of her. She didn't know a lot about finances, but I was really proud of her because she won an insurance she won a lawsuit, and she got a big check, and it was an amount of money that her family nobody in her family had ever had, and and she literally, like, she asked me, she said, well, I'd like for you to go to the bank with me to deposit this and help me make sure I put this money in a good place because I want me and my kids to benefit from this. And I said, okay. I said, well, where'd you put the money in the meantime? When did you get the check? She said, I got it about 8 weeks ago. And I said, so where is it now? She said, I haven't cashed it yet. And I said, you didn't cash it? And I said, so what's your family members doing? She said, oh, they're all calling me asking to borrow money for this and borrow money for that. Because I was like, I know your family, I know your cousins and siblings. You mean that? So you did not cash that check, and you were waiting for me to go to the bank with you to help you figure out what to do with this money. I said, that is so smart. I am so proud of you because because a lot of people, y'all know what it is. A lot of people would have got that check, that money would have been gone. There was another young guy that I kind of mentored that I knew, many years ago when I was at Syracuse, and unfortunately, he had his father died, and his father, filed another. It was another lawsuit type thing. And when his father died, he got like $100,000. He'd never had $100,000 before, so he was literally the most generous man in Babylon for about 6 months. He would go to the bank and get and withdraw like $10,000 or $15,000. He was on Instagram flexing, throwing the money in the air. He had all the nicest of everything. He bought a car for himself. He bought stuff for his friends. He would, whenever they went anywhere, did anything, he was the money man. And this lasted for 6 months. By the end of the year, he was 100% broke. No more money was he had no more money left at all. And I was furious when I heard this because this man has a daughter. Now his daughter will suffer because her daddy was stupid. And here's the thing. This is my issue with culture. This is where the culture has to be challenged because they mass market stupidity to black people, especially black men. They literally mass market stupidity. There was a whole BET show called Blew the Bag. Anybody ever seen Blew the Bag? Blew the Bag. If you haven't seen it, look it up on go look it up on YouTube. Look it up on YouTube. Blew the Bag ain't nothing. It's just a show about mostly black men who came into a whole bunch of money, who wasted all the money in a matter of weeks. And it makes me angry because I'm a man and a father, and I know how children suffer when their fathers are stupid. I just know this. I know how children suffer when their fathers are sloppy. I know how children suffer when their fathers have no vision and no discipline about how they conduct themselves. So this show angered me. I got mad watching this. I saw one guy, but I wasn't mad at him because it's almost like, forgive them for they know not what they do. I get it. You were indoctrinated into this system that was created to make you think that it's cool to be a buffoon. All right, that it's cool to be ignorant, that it's okay for you to not be responsible, and then you match that with the low self-esteem of you not realizing your value, not realizing your worth, not realizing that you're a hero to your children until you start acting like an asshole. And then when you start acting like an ass, they say my dad used to be a hero, but now he's an ass. I thought he was a hero, but actually he's a bum. That's horrible. That's terrible. So this show Blew the Bag. I saw a guy, he has 6 kids and he won the lottery. He got like $1 million. And he literally spent $1 million in about 6 weeks. And he laughed about it. He said, I rented out the entire top floor of the fanciest hotel in the city. And I paid money for a lot of strippers and rented Lamborghinis and bought bottles of Cristal, and all the money was gone. And this man had 6 kids. And I just thought about that and I said, here's the thing. Here's where my mind goes. My mind goes like, well, who taught you that that was the way you're supposed to use your money? Because you wasn't listening to me thinking like that. Because I ain't never gonna co-sign on no nonsense like that. Oh, you watch a lot of rap videos where they give you that. white supremacist propaganda that they define as black culture. That's where you got that from, because everything that you did, well, you were imitating a rapper. You were imitating something you saw in a music video. So do you understand the danger of this? Do you all understand the danger of media being used to train young black men and young black women to emulate the wrong behavior? And this has been used by colonizers for thousands of years. This ain't you ain't the first ones. They did this to the Native Americans. They did this to people in India. They did this to people in Africa. And so you have to be really thoughtful about where you get your culture from, and really very deliberate, almost aggressively deliberate in terms of shaping the culture around you, and having the courage to stand up to the nonsense. Like so in this space, I'm not trying to, I told you, I ain't trying to fit in. I ain't trying to be cool. I ain't trying to be hip. I ain't trying to connect to the culture unless it's healthy. If it's something like dancing or something, yeah, I don't care about that. But when you're talking about smoking, drinking, wasting money, getting arrested, doing illegal things, hurting other people, I don't want no parts in none of that, because I've seen the guys who got the 30-year prison sentences and were away from their kids for most of their lives. I've seen the young men and young women who ended up in the casket. I've seen what a drug addict looks like when they've been messing with the drugs for too long. There's a documentary. I'm gonna say this, and I got to run, guys. There's a documentary out now. I saw it. I don't know if it's on YouTube or Peacock, but it's called DeBarge. Anybody seen that DeBarge? Y'all know DeBarge, right? They sang, they had high pitched voices, and they sang really good, but they were really talented. There's a whole family, and in this documentary, they're kind of just showing what's happened to at least some of the DeBarge family members. There were two brothers. It looks like they were strung out. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it looked like the drugs had really, really done a number on them. And they were not, and it's crazy because back in the 80s and the 90s, these guys were young, hip sex symbols and all this other stuff. And now they just look like two old, raggedy, dusty ass junkies. And this is something that makes me sad, because I want you to understand how the loss in Black generational wealth connects to culture, and how culture has been infected. They've really peed in the swimming pool, so to speak, or peed in the Kool-Aid, in terms of putting things in the culture that are just personally hurtful, but also hurtful in terms of family, trauma, drama, and finances. The wealth, all that wealth, like the DeBarge family could have become a billionaire family if they'd managed their opportunity properly, but because the culture drove them in a specific direction, all that was wasted, and now you just have the ashes. Now you're just looking at the aftermath. Don't let that be your story. Don't let that be your story. Some of y'all are gonna get blessed at some point. I think everybody in here is blessed. We're a blessing to each other. Y'all are definitely a blessing to me. I want to be a blessing to you. But then some of y'all are gonna get super blessed. Some of y'all are going to run into a situation where somebody's going to leave you 100 acres of land. Maybe you'll run into a scenario where you might marry a billionaire. Maybe you'll run into a situation where you'll win the lottery. Maybe your business will take off and you're making a couple $100,000 a month. And when you get the blessing, I want you to be fully aware of the magnitude of not just the blessing that's in front of you. I want you to seize the moment, but I want you to also see the vision. I want you to seize the next 20 years. I want you to see not just what you have, but what that thing can become if you protect it, and if you use it efficiently, and if you grow that thing. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. So if you're gifted an apple tree, I don't want you to just see an apple, or just see the fresh, juicy apples. I don't want you to just see the tree. I want you to see the orchard that you can have if you take the seeds from the tree and keep planting the seeds systematically over a long period of time. So don't just see the apple, don't just see the tree. I want you to see the orchard that will come from all of this. That's what wealth is supposed to look like for you. And that's what economic elevation and financial consciousness will do for you. Does that make sense? Do we get what I'm saying? Give me a yes in the chat so you know we're on the same page. So I want to feel like I did something good today, because I'm about to go in here and do some other stuff. But I just want to walk away feeling good, because that's what life's about. I think every day is an opportunity for you to find something to make yourself feel good. And I feel great about being Black, and about who I am, and about who you are, and about what we're gonna do. Ain't nobody gonna stop us. We can't be stopped. We are the unstoppable force, and you better not pretend to be the immovable object, because we will move your ass out the way, and we're gonna get the job done. So be one, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, guys. guys for listening. You'll hear from me soon. If you're not on the text list, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. I'll send you a reminder when we do class again tomorrow. I'll also keep you guys posted on what's happening with Trump. Tomorrow, we have stock market class as well. So if you want to join the Stock Market Investors Club, just go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. You